I just want to thank everyone for coming. My name is Katie Haven. I'm a precinct committee officer for Democrats down here in the Lower Valley area. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. But some of the other PCOs and myself wanted to kind of get the community together, and we thought a really good way to do that would be to have a presentation on a topic that was universally interesting to everybody, regardless of what your political affiliation is. And so we are hosting this as the Okanogan County Democrats. We are welcoming everybody, and we hope that you all got a chance to talk to each other and meet each other. So now I just want to introduce our county commissioner, Andy Hover. He represents District 2, which is this part of the county. He's been a commissioner for almost 10 years. He has deep experience and knowledge about the budget, and I thought he was the perfect person to invite to really tell us about the history of why the discussions they had and what brought them to the point of needing to put an issue like this on the ballot.
Thank you. I appreciate you clapping for a topic that's not universally welcomed, actually. Again, thanks everybody for showing up. Katie, thank you very much for inviting me down to talk about this. I appreciate it because it is important. It is a topic that people, you know, taxes are just not something that you want to keep paying more and more of, and I understand that. So I came down tonight to explain what a levy lid lift is, kind of how we got to this point, what it would do to your taxes, kind of, you know, so on and so forth. And then if you got questions, feel free to ask them about them. So anyway, so I forget what year it was, but Tim Iman ran a ballot initiative a while back that limited counties and municipalities to only be able to collect 1/10 of 1% of their previous year's collection. So that does not mean that your taxes go up by 1%. It meant that our collection could only go up by them. So prior to that, the county commissioners could have said, we need a 6% increase this year to property taxes, and if they decided that was going to be okay, they could vote on that and they could increase your property taxes by 6%, and you know, so on and so forth. So the Tim Iman initiative basically limited that. So just to put that in perspective, like let's say, I'm going to use round numbers here. We're roughly, we collect about $6 million, and I have the actual numbers. It's close to 6.9 right now, but $6 million. So if the county collected $6 million last year, all we can collect the following year is $6,060,000. So that 60,000 then gets dispersed among every single resident in the county based on the levy rate. So does that make sense to everybody, hopefully? So that really limits, obviously, and not necessarily bad, but it limits the amount of collection that counties can get. So, you know, over the last 10 years that I've been a commissioner, our property tax collection has gone from, so in 2019, which I was a commissioner back then, we budgeted $6,149,630 to be collected from taxes. And that year, actually, we only collected I don't mean only, but we collected $5,956,526. In 2026, our collection, we budgeted $6,959,000. So in 6 years, our collection has gone up by $800,000. Now that includes, the one thing that does get added into that is if a new person comes in and builds a house, we get to collect 1% of what the worth of that house is too. So there's kind of a little bit of a compounding effect, but we don't have a lot of we don't have a lot of construction going on, even though to us it may seem like it, but we really don't in this county. So what has been, this is the fact that the county is in the, I guess, financial position that we are right now is not something that we did not expect it to happen, because as we were going along, things were going along pretty good, and then you get to about 2020, you get to COVID, actually, and things really got hectic. You had large infusions of federal dollars. You had what I consider to be hyperinflation, because I mean you had production of goods and things that were just going, they were going up very rapidly. Labor force was, I mean, people who could stay home and get paid for it. We were having a very, very difficult time, when we would put out for a job, we were having a very hard time getting people to apply for those jobs. Back then, probably the average, I looked at the assessor's budget back in 2019 and looked at the labor costs and how many people were working, and they were averaging about $22 an hour back then. So I'm gonna back up for just a little bit. So what a levy lid lift does is it goes out to a vote of the people. Oh, and I should even back up a little further. I'm sorry. I gotta start out with the legal stuff too. So I cannot lobby for you to vote for this. I am not here to say please vote for this. I'm not saying please don't vote for it. All I am here to do, all I can do, is provide information for it, because the commissioners actually put this on the ballot. So we are not legally allowed to do that. So what a levy lid lift is asking the voters to actually raise the collection amount above, right now, the legal limit of 1%. So that has to go out to a vote of the people. It's basically general, it can pass by 51%. It doesn't have to pass by 60 or anything like that. So what the county is asking is to go from, I believe that our levy rate's about 88 cents right now, to $1.15. $1.15 per thousand. Okay, and that is just in the general fund. So if you look, I brought my taxes just to share with you. So my overall taxes on my house are $3,135 for a 1915 house on a half acre. Of that, I pay $4.52 to the cemetery. I pay $390 to the county road fund. So the county road fund is separate from the county current expense fund. So all we're asking for is a raise of the collection of the county current expense fund. Current expense, I pay $355 a year. EMS, I pay $185 a year. Fire, I pay $197 a year. Hospital, I pay $303 a year. Library, I pay $99.81 a year. Local school, I pay $590 a year. State school part 1, I pay $654 a year. State school part 2, I pay $352 a year. And then I have a $5 conservation tax, a pest control tax, and a weed control tax, which are $17. So when you see this levy lid lift on the ballot, the money would only go to that specific piece of the taxes. And if it passes, for every $100,000 your property or your house is valued at, you would pay an extra $27 per year. So for me, I think my house is valued at around $500,000. I'd pay an extra $135 a year. For somebody with a $200,000 place, which there probably aren't very many of those around anymore, $54. $1 million assessment would be $270 a year. So that kind of puts into perspective the amounts of money that we're talking about with the increases.
Can we ask questions while you're speaking?
Yeah, you can. I always do that, and I.
What do you mean by a year? Does this sunset after so many years?
No. So this is a one-time permanent levy lid lift.
One-time permanent.
One-time permanent. Meaning, well,
How commissioners speak?
no, that's actually how state speaks. So I had to go through and look at it. There's 4 different ways you can actually do a levy lid lift. There's a one-time permanent, one time in 4 years permanent, semi-permanent.
How long will you be paying your higher taxes?
Forever now.
Okay.
So if this passes,
Forever, I understand.
if this passes, yeah, until I die, and then my kid will be paying it. So we are asking for a permanent lift of the collection rate. So what it would do is it would go from 6.9 million to about 9.3 million, and then from there we could still do the 1% after that. So basically, if you're going along like this, it bumps up, and then it can go up. Yes, ma'am.
Can you talk a little bit about what you pay out of that? I mean, you can.
Absolutely, I will.
Road,
Yeah, yep, absolutely, I will go through that. Yep.
When you said that the levy lift only applied to
Current expense.
that specific part, which specific part were you referring to?
So on your, well, and I'll explain that because those two questions kind of go hand in hand a little bit. So when a lot of people, they call me up and they start yelling at me about their taxes, right? It's like, my taxes are way too high, you know, this, and I understand that. I mean, I just showed you I pay $3,000 a year in taxes, so I do that too. But if you break it down, you're paying for several, you know, it's not all going to the county. So my $3,000 is not getting paid to the county so that we can go raise our wages up a whole bunch, you know, or do whatever, right? You got, yeah, that's half, well, what is it? 6 and 6 is 12 and 3 is 15. So roughly 50% of your taxes goes to the schools. So the things that get paid from current expense are, and I should have, maybe I did bring that. Oh, look, I might have. I did. Perfect. Luckily, I wrote my notes on something that I needed. Okay, so it pays for WSU extension. So we end up paying about $120,000 right now to have the WSU extension. We pay for the secretarial services and the office and things like that. We pay so that pays the assessor, the auditor, planning department, the clerk, county clerk, not the commissioner's clerk, the county clerk that does all the legal stuff. County commissioners, which includes HR and risk management with us. The coroner, maintenance, district court, the Board of Equalization. So when you say that, hey, my assessment's too high, it pays the board members that come in to adjudicate that. The jail, the juvenile department, it pays for, so non-departmental is a section in our budget. It's a huge section. That's where our computer licenses come out of, where our insurance comes out of, where just, it's a multitude of things that are paid for on behalf of all of the different departments that are within current expense. Prosecutor's office, sheriff's office, it pays for our audit every year, so we get audited by the state every year. Superior Court, treasurer, civil service, they do all of the testing and stuff for police officers coming in. Central services, which is our IT department. Elections, so the elections department gets paid from the general fund. Fairgrounds, and the fairgrounds, the whole fairgrounds and facilities over there, and public defense. So as you can see, it pays, there's a lot of different things that are in there. So does anybody have any questions? Before I move on, does anybody I know I went through that a little bit fast and yeah.
So over the year, how much would be collected?
Over the year, so currently,
How much
what?
extra?
Yep,
Or-
$2.3 million extra.
Okay, and then the follow-up on that would be, has the county done anything to to save money?
Yes, we have.
Can you
And
explain
yeah,
that?
so it is very difficult because we don't sell widgets, right? I can't raise the price of widgets and make more money. So we are a service-related entity. It's all labor. So really the only way to cut costs is by cutting people. Currently, the the treasurer's office, she had an opening for a full-time employee, and she said that she wasn't going to fill it because we weren't sure what's going to go on for next year's budget. The auditor's office, same thing. Assessor's office, same thing. Sheriff's department, that's a whole ball of wax right there, but they are implementing things to try to save money there.
So of all these people,
Mhm.
how many of them have gotten wage increases and at what percentage?
Usually, so for the last 10 years, roughly, I negotiate most all of the contracts with the county union group. So we have 11 union groups. I was attempting to keep the negotiation to a 2% increase a year. A 2% increase a year. Now, so a 2% increase a year for all of those employees within current expense was about $100,000 a year, maybe somewhere around there, increase. Yeah. Yep. 2% is actually not a lot of money. Even though it sounds like a lot of money, it's actually not a lot of money when you actually, add it all up. If we could have kept it at that 2% rate and all of our other costs stayed static, we could have lived within our means of that 1% raise, roughly. It was dicey, but it was close. The thing is that minimum wage jumped way up. So we were at $9 an hour, for minimum wage for a long time, and then I think it was 11 or something like that, and then it went to 17. So it's $17.13.
So how many of these employees make $17 an hour?
I would have to go look, but there are some that do make that minimum wage. But
So you based your increase upon the minimum wage increase?
I'll put it this way. If minimum wage, if anybody can go flip burgers or do whatever for $20 an hour, which if you go to McDonald's, they're usually paying about $20 an hour. To try to get somebody who has usually with our job descriptions, you're supposed to have it's a minimum high school diploma, but most of the time we're asking for a 2-year degree, and stuff like that. You get, if you don't raise their wages up a little bit, you have this ultra compression of wages. So you have a person who has no skills, who can walk in and make $18 an hour roughly. And then you have a person with a 4-year college degree who may have a lot of risk. You talk about some of the people within the treasurer's office or the auditor's office, in the elections department, in the assessor's office, any of our offices, a lot of those people take on a lot of risk through taking care of tax dollars. They're handling money, they're dealing with the public. They're dealing with, you look at the auditor's office, they have to deal with people every day for licensing, for elections and stuff like that. And if you go in there and people can get very heated, with that. So I guess what I'm saying is that there has to be, a level that you get to when you're paying these people, right? I mean, my kid, 20 years old, just went and got a job working for an irrigation district, making $28 an hour with subsidized housing. That's more, I know, that's what I said too. I said, hey, that's a good job, better keep that one. But that is more than some of the people make in the county. If you go and you talk to,
I mean, with benefits and everything.
well, if you add in all the benefits, they're making more than that. So if you, I mean,
Sure.
but if you weren't paying benefits, they'd be making nothing. Because our insurance, I mean, the union insurances are fairly good. But like people that aren't in the unions, I know a lot of you might have saw the former sheriff's, post about he left because of insurance reasons, right? Well, that was kind of true, is that he got paid insurance, but our families don't get paid insurance. So like for me, if I needed to put somebody on my insurance, it's $800 a month. So it's costly.
Just like me in the private.
Just like you in the private sector. Yep, that's right. But we can't sell our widgets for more money or, do whatever. So, right now, I think I went back and looked at wages. I looked at the assessor's office. I mean, the wages, and I don't mean to pick on the assessor's office. It was just easy because he only has basically people in there. 2019, I took everybody except for the actual elected official, and they averaged $22 an hour. So that's from the highest paid employee down to the lowest paid employee. They were $22 an hour. In 2026, they averaged $28 an hour. So, and there are people that make more money, obviously, and now, I will also say that part of the issues that we have, hold on just one second, is you have this minimum wage that goes up. Also, L&I, because we are an employer of over 100 people, L&I makes us pay our exempt employees, which a lot of our road crew are exempt, and they're like our fairgrounds managers exempt, which means that we don't pay them overtime because they may be working 10 hours a day or on a Friday or on a Saturday or on a Sunday. Next year, the state is mandating that we pay them $96,000 a year.
So you're saying that wages are basically bound by the labor unions?
Wages are not necessarily bound by the labor unions, but when the unions come in and start negotiating, they look at we're below average in our comparable counties as far as wages go. So we're paying less in Okanogan County than Chelan County is, than Douglas County is, than so on and so forth. In comparable counties. Yes.
So Andy, if this does not pass, what's going to happen?
That's a good question. One thing I will say is that we just found out we got more PILT money than we expected. So we got $1 million more PILT.
What's that?
That is payment in lieu of taxes. So that is the federal government basically giving us money. We can't tax the federal government for their land that they have in Okanogan County. I know, right? Yes, I agree. But they do give us a payment, and we don't even know what the payments, what the formula is or anything like that. We've been getting $3-point-something million a year forever, and it just bumped up to 4.2. So the only problem I have is that I don't know if that's because our secure rural schools monies got screwed up this year. We didn't, in secure rural schools is monies from the federal government that were based on timber production within the county. Okay, so counties could elect to take 25% of the timber receipts that we cut in this county, or a payment from the government. Now, that money though goes to schools and roads only. Okay, SRS. Yep. there is some sort of metric between SRS and PILT that the federal government knows, and I don't know because we've tried to figure it out and can't. That if you don't get paid SRS, your PILT goes up. And so I'm not sure if this was a one-time deal and we're going to go back to 3 million next year or what, and that's a guessing game. Back to the original question, though, it's kind of diverged. If this doesn't pass, probably, I know Katie keeps track of our stuff, and a lot of people have heard me say that basically you triage your that all of those things that I read within the general fund, you triage. First thing on the chopping block is the fairgrounds. Now, I've never said anything about the fair. The fair has its own separate fund, and the fair would continue to go on. But right now, we lose about $350,000 on the fairgrounds itself. So you'd look at, okay, do you shutter that and just pay one person an hourly wage to try to go mow the lawns and keep it green, kind of, right? You'd start cutting personnel, and we'd probably start cutting hours. So we would probably look at going to a 36-hour work week or something like that, to where you could actually shut down buildings and shut down electricity and things that you can try to do to save money. You could, dropping people's wages back down is never a really good, most people, they're like, nope, we'll work harder, we want our wage where it's at. And so really it's more like cutting people. If one person, so if a person's making, let's say $48,000 a year, usually we add about 30% to that for all of our FICA, Medicare, and other things. So they're so we're paying out $65,000 roughly for that employee. So if you cut that one employee, you're saving $65,000 in that department. I did make a list of things that changed from 2019 to 2026 that are not related to labor that I'll go through, though, and show you how our expenses have gone up other than labor. So our fleet costs for the sheriff, so just the tires, oil, maintenance, has gone up by $75,000 from 2019 to 2025. That's fuel included in that. Our maintenance budget was $583,000 in 2019. Our maintenance budget is now $878,000. So that's a $300,000 increase over a 6-7 year period. Our insurance. Our insurance in 2019 was actually, we had budgeted $400,000, and that was a little over. We usually budget for tort claims and things like that, plus our risk pool insurance. This last year it was $1,045,000. So that's a $600,000 increase to our property and liability insurance. Public defense. Our public defense bill in 2019 was $1,019,000. In 2026, it's $1.978 million, an increase of $900 and some thousand. Jail labor costs. So during COVID and post-COVID, we were at multiple times ready to ship inmates out of our jail to some other jail that we were trying to find, because we were in emergency. Basically, we had booking restrictions on. We did not have enough people to man the jail safely. And these guys are still guys and girls still doing it. We've gotten more people in because we raised wages up. They were making 20-something an hour, probably low 20s an hour being a corrections officer. Yep. Now You know, they're up to, I think starting wage for a corrections officer is 28. And that's actually attracting some people. Oh, and we lowered our age requirement from 21 down to 18 to be a corrections officer. Yeah, I know. That was something, I mean, we didn't want to do that at all. But to try to get people and, you know, be able to put criminals in jail when they needed to be, those are the things we were having to do. So our jail labor went up from $2.9 million to $4.2 million because there's a lot of corrections officers. Now, I will say with that, for many years, we didn't fill those positions, so a lot of that money would get rolled over into the next year, but if you're fully staffed, you're gonna use it all. Health insurance, just for in the jail, over the in 6 years has gone up by $150,000. So that's just on the corrections officers themselves.
How many of those?
I don't have that. I bet you there's, which is probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 22 maybe, somewhere around there, 22, 23, something like that.
They got good health insurance.
So they have good, yeah, well, they have good health insurance, and unfortunately, insurance companies have us. I mean, we were getting, you know, basically 7%, 11%, 20% increase in healthcare costs across the county. I mean, last year I think it was only 3%. We were really, really happy about that. Software, this is one that just kills me. So the auditor's software, just the auditor's software that they use to do your department licensing, your elections, and your title stuff went from $30,000 to $150,000 a year just for the license. And our general software for the county, so Microsoft, because we have to have all this protections, and we have, I think somebody said we had 47 terabytes of information that are stored on, that have to be backed up all the time. General software went from $99,000 a year to $182,000 a year. Those were just costs that I went down the list and looked at and could see, oh yeah, there's a big jump, there's a big jump, there's a big jump. You know, that doesn't include the insurance hikes for everybody else or all those other things. So costs are, I mean, it's just like any farmer, I guess, knows. Costs are outstripping revenues. You know, like raising hay hasn't gone up in a long, long time. Diesel, you know, 10 years ago you could pay, I don't know, $2 something a gallon for off-road diesel, and now it's still like $5.50 or whatever it is. So it's these costs going up and trying to, you know, and having a lot of people for public safety and service and things like that without producing any goods that we you know, can sell. I know, I'm sorry. I know it's not a happy topic. Everybody's like, oh my gosh. I don't like talking about taxes. I don't like talking about that type of stuff, but that's just the reality of the situation, and that's why that's what led us to put this on the ballot, was to say, okay, we were in last year, our budget was, and I want to explain this too, because sometimes this gets out and people are like, oh my gosh, what's going on? So if I say that we are in a deficit, what I mean is that our expenses are more than our revenue. The county still has savings that we can utilize to balance our budget. So by law, the county has to balance our budget. So we have savings that we can utilize to do that, but obviously that's a fixed amount of savings that you're drawing on every year to try to balance that budget. So This last year, we were I think we ended up being $2.3 million short in our revenue based on our expenses. And so we got a large chunk of federal money. We got $12 million of federal money that we were actually only using the interest from to upgrade the structures and the things within the county. So we were only trying to use our interest, and ended up having to chew into that stuff. So the county is not in the red, but we are operating in a deficit situation where we're chewing into our savings account. So, and you had a question, sorry.
Is it fair to say that when an older property sells and the new value is calculated, that is a benefit to the county, that increase in property taxes?
Taxes are a little hard to explain. Actually, the assessor told me this morning when I was talking to him that, hey, anytime you want me to come with you, I'll come with you. But so what happens is, if we say that we're going to collect $6 million, that's what we collect. So if a home sells, the valuation will change based on what the seller bought the home for. So let's say it was on our books for $200,000, we'll just use some round numbers, and somebody bought it for $500,000, okay? That change then is calculated, and if everything else stayed static, which it really doesn't, everybody else's taxes would drop a little bit. In that, I know it's hard to explain because taxes go up by a little bit every year too. But if you think of it this way, if the county collects $10 from two individuals, right? And their houses are valued the same. I'm gonna collect $5 from this person, I'm gonna collect $5 from this person. If this person's house is worth twice as much, I'm gonna collect $750 from this person, and I'm gonna collect $250 from this person. And so as more people come in, your levy rate actually does drop. I know it doesn't seem like it because everybody's tax says, hey, my taxes are going up, but that's due to school levies, EMS levies, things like that. So those levies, when you start out with an EMS levy, let's say, or a school levy, and they say, I want to collect 50 cents on 1,000, okay? Based on the net worth of whatever's in my geographic area. As more people move in, they still can only collect a certain amount of money. So that 50 cents sets the amount, the original amount. Let's say it's $10 million or whatever it is. So they can only collect 1% extra a year, so 10 million, 100,000, blah, blah, blah. Your levy rate actually starts going down. So on that EMS levy over a 10-year period, at the end, you might only be paying 42 cents on the 1,000 for that levy. But then once that 10 years is up and they ask you to re-up that levy, then your house, let's say that was worth $200,000 at the beginning, that's now worth $500,000. Now they can say, okay, I want to collect 50 cents again on your $500,000 house. And I know it's super complicated. It's very difficult to explain, but it basically, those levies bump up really quick over years. The county, between the county roads, which is separate, and the county current expense, we get 23.8%. I know it's really hard to understand sometimes, but no, if your neighbor's, I mean, it depends on what your neighbor's house is, right? I mean, if you have a 4-bedroom, huge house where a like property down there sold for $1 million and a like property up there sold for $1 million, they're probably going to value your house at $1 million. That's how they do it. If your next door neighbor has a 2-bedroom, mobile home, and the mobile home sold for $90,000 down here, $90,000 down there, they're gonna probably value it at $90,000.
So,
Hold on just a minute.
So what other revenue generating models did you consider and that led you to this levy list?
So we considered a public safety tax, which is an increase to sales tax. But there are rules that govern that based on what the state tells us, that basically if we were to implement that countywide, each city would get a 40% split of it, and we would get 60 if they didn't take their first 2%. If they took their first 2%, they get 60% of that. We only get 40. It was a very big mathematical calculation. And for Okanogan County, most of the sales tax generation is within the incorporated cities. So if they were taking a lot of that, we were looking at maybe a little over $1 million that we could collect from that. But we weren't sure because it's such a hard calculation to do, because the treasurer only gets our countywide sales tax report, you know, and then you have to break it all down and things like that. So we considered that. There's not a lot of other revenue models out there, honestly. It's cutting cost or property tax, because you can't get more money from the federal government. You can't get any more money from your PUD privilege tax. You know, all of your revenue sources are pretty well fixed.
So did the IMAN caps limit things like a higher tax rate on second homes or nightly rentals?
The Washington State Constitution limits that.
Okay.
So we have, in the Constitution, it says that everybody has to be taxed equally. So like the millionaires, billionaires tax, whatever it is, millionaires tax that's going through, the opponents of that are saying that is a tiered tax system, which the Constitution does not allow for in Washington State. Hold on just a minute. Isaac, did you have a?
oh yeah, I was just gonna ask, is it true, and in general, has property rates gone down due to failed levies?
Property taxes have gone down due to failed levies. So the Tonasket EMS district, that, was it Tonasket or Oroville? It was either Tonasket or Oroville, failed for 1 year. And so people's property taxes went down because there was no levy amount applied to them. So
That's the only
so
one that you could.
that's the only one that and I mean, any other ones, I've never seen a levy like that that just completely wiped out everything, right? School levies are so stacked that you, now I've seen a school levy not pass before, which means that you didn't get taxed more, but I've not seen them. I've not seen that's the only one I've seen.
And I just had another question. So we had would you call it temporary permanent?
1 year permanent.
1 year?
It's a 1 year permanent, yeah.
Okay. So would that be a new cap?
That would be a new cap, correct.
And then in 2 years, could there possibly be another one of these? In 2 years, there'd be another cap?
Well, if people voted for it, there could, but I mean, as a commissioner, I would not put another one on the ballot. I mean, we're trying to get back to zero. I mean, you know, you're not going to be very I'm not very popular right now, as it is, and you'd be really unpopular if you tried to do that. So technically, yes, you could, commissioners could ask for another levy lid left.
Every year?
You could put it on the ballot every year if you wanted to. If you're going to do that, you could do the variable one. I mean, you would go to a different model and do a variable
What
one.
would we see in this triage? I mean,
I-
what would we actually notice and feel?
You would have, like, if you go to get tabs, I guess that's a good one. If you go to get tabs, you're maybe not gonna get them on Fridays. You may be waiting in line longer, like, you know, instead of an hour wait, it might be a 2 hour wait. If you wanna get a title changed over, you may not be able to get a title changed over the day that you want to get it changed over. What else would you see? I mean, it's those types of services, I think. You know, with police, you're gonna keep police, so you're not gonna see much of a difference there. So, I mean, your question is a very valid question. The day-to-day services that a county provides, like, building permits. Building permits, if you're building a building, the building department, getting inspections, getting building inspections will probably slow down. Yeah, so it wouldn't halt, it's just the service would be reduced. You know, you'd go to, you know, it'd be like trying to get breakfast in Winthrop on a Monday or something like that, you know, you can't do it. Or twist on the
There was
sun.
a question.
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah.
I hear you focusing on the costs, and I don't know if there's any revenue that's generated from having stayed at the fairgrounds open, but when you close them, there's a consequence. When you cut staff, there's more of a consequence than just slowing.
Yes, ma'am.
There's people being unhappy with their work and leaving.
Yes,
There's
ma'am.
people being, not being able to do their work. There are mistakes made, like maybe the tax, the increase in, I mean, I don't know that was what happened with the property, but say it did, that was missed for a while, and that happens more. And becoming a less functional county government is a consequence of not adequately funding it.
It absolutely is.
And one could argue that, I mean, I've seen it, the auditor's department is the one that I know the best, and I feel like there are incredibly amazing people who work there, who are dedicated to service and work incredibly hard at what they do, as there are in other departments, I'm sure. But I also am aware of the stresses that there are in that department, and that is a really tough job. And the more
For $26 an hour or something like that.
right, and the more difficult you make it by making it harder to do a good job, by cutting staff, seems to me to have big consequences and make this a less desirable place to live. We already face that. We already face people in large parts of this county, young people leaving, people not wanting to stay, and so
You
I
got
think
into
you're in a-
you got into a point of a discussion that's probably a gray area for me, as far as advocating for this. You know, I'm just trying to give her information. I appreciate your point of view, though.
She said it so you don't have to.
Yeah, I appreciate that too. Yeah.
So what she said is we better vote for it.
I mean, I don't know. I look at it like, you know, if you have a $500,000 house and it's $135 a year. I mean, I can skip my lattes. I know it's money, right? I don't want to diminish that fact. It's not so much, I don't think, for a lot of people. And the good thing is that with property taxes, there is a new senior exemption. So I would say, I want to say it's 65, and don't quote me on that. But I would definitely call your assessor, Larry Gilman. He is, I mean, he actually went to Olympia and promoted this to try to get this in place. If you make under a certain amount of money, your taxes get frozen, dropped. I'm not sure, there's different levels. But I would definitely, if you're over 65, call the assessor, ask him about the senior exemption, what that means and for you and how that works.
It'll be effective in 2027.
Right, so you would want to call him and
This year
for
or
next year. Yep.
It raises the cap
Yeah.
to, I think,
$74,000
So
for.
how is that gonna impact the county's revenue if that, because I think there's a lot of people, and I remember right, I think it's age 61, isn't it?
He's 65, but
Oh,
it has a
okay.
significant amount.
Yeah, but
But-
it's gonna make a whole lot more people eligible.
Just
for
like what I was saying, it will
exemption.
defer the cost to other people.
Okay.
So in that, it is kind of a,
So young.
no, it's not a double-edged sword. It's when we were talking about taxing second homes more, it's sort of like that, like seniors get a discount and then other people are gonna take up the slack. Now, if it were me, I would be like, well, that's, I've lived here a long time and I deserve that, so,
So that 65 exemption wouldn't affect anybody in this room, of course.
Won't affect me, I can tell you that.
So, again.
But hold on just a minute, I think this lady had a question.
I have a question. Are the commissioners exploring any kinds of businesses coming here that would generate revenue? Maybe people making widgets that they could charge taxes on?
We definitely do. Ronnie Holder is our economic director, and she has gone out and done inventories on all the empty buildings. Yes, we would like people to move here. We don't want data centers here. So we actually just did a thing where we said, hey, we're not going to allow data centers here. But any other types of business, yes. Now in the Methow, we can't. We can't have any commercial business outside of the cities because of the water issues that we have in this valley. So the only businesses that will be added to is Brewster, Okanogan, Omak, Tenasket, Orville. We don't have super cheap power. We're kind of out of the way on the mainline highway routes, as far as I-90 and stuff like that. Yeah.
So, I'm sorry, I'm going to ask you too many questions.
No, don't. Go ahead.
I'm just wondering, is there any cost savings in the future, like, a lot of people are talking about, and I know there's a labor issue with people versus AI, and I just wondered if AI would be helping our county in any way in doing auditing and other things because they are in other places. I mean,
There's,
save money. Outside of
that's-
the fear of AI.
No, I know. It's a hard question to answer because there's so many physical things that the people in those offices are doing, right? I mean, AI can't hand you a title sheet and say, hey, by the way, you missed the signature down here on line 3.
Really?
Right?
You can't do that?
Well, I can't do it effectively. How's that? I still think that humans, I mean,
So you guys don't have that conversation about AI a whole lot?
we have a conversation about making sure that AI is kept where AI should be kept, and
So is that a reality looking at the future?
I mean, it is, but you look at everything to make yourself more efficient, but also at the same time, we have one of the higher poverty rates. I mean, here's another thing when you talk about labor, right? I got this off the it's the federal website for the living wage calculation for Okanogan County, Washington. Okay, so the poverty wage for two adults and one working is $10.40 an hour. So that's a poverty rate. So if you have two adults and one person's working, $10.40, you're considered under the poverty line. Living wage in Okanogan County for two adults with one working and 0 children is $36.84 an hour. So that's what they consider living wage to be. If you have two adults and one child, and so you're whoever's staying home, father, mother staying home, I'm sorry, that was with one child, 3684. It was 2969 with no children. If you got 2 children, 1 adult working, it's $39.82, and $40 an hour, $80,000 a year. They figure it's the living wage for 2 adults and 2 children. So going back to the lady's discussion over here about, quality of life and things like that. I mean, we don't keep a lot of kids around here unless they're farming or unfortunately homeless or something like that, So, there's the, AI could probably do a lot of stuff, right? And then what are we gonna do? Right? So, anyway.
Well, I had to ask.
I know you did. I know, and I appreciate that, so.
We could maybe have time for 1 or 2 more questions,
Mhm.
or
I know it's getting late.
Quarter to 8 almost, so does anybody have any more questions?
I'm sorry that it's so confusing. Taxes and things like that are very confusing to try to.
Yeah, great
Oh,
job.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.